Hello and welcome to the Scientology Money Project. Glad to see you here. We're live. Hi, Chuck. Hi, Denise. Glad to see you here. I'm going to cover a topic today that I get asked about a lot. And hi, Sherry. Welcome here. We're gonna ask the question: why are your body Thetans tax deductible, but your emitter is not? And this goes to a larger context of tax exemption in America as it concerns religions, nonprofits, charitable organizations. And it's kind of an interesting question. And so I'm going to share a slideshow because I like to use slideshows, PowerPoint, and then I'll post some documents on my blog after this. I think you'll find it interesting because there's some definitions. It's very popular, and it's a misconception for a lot of Scientology critics to say that the 1989 Hernandez versus Commissioner decision, in which the court ruled that Scientology auditing was a quid pro quo, that you paid for something and got something. That was an argument a court made, a ruling a court made, actually. And hey, Wayne, good to see you here. So Hernandez versus Commissioner was in 1989. After the Church of Scientology received its, what I think, illicit tax exemption from corrupt IRS officials, from a handful of corrupt IRS officials. And I do think there was, if not criminality, then certainly something close to it involved when the IRS gave Scientology tax exemption. There was a strategic plot, I think, and we'll cover that in another episode. I've never done my definitive program on how I think the IRS got tax exemption. I put a lot together. There's a seminal article. You can Google Douglas Franz, Franz. In New York, he did what I think is a definitive article in the 90s, but Scientology from tax rebel to whatever. Anyway, Douglas Franz did an interesting piece. Hey, Chuck. Always glad to see you. Chuck was around during that period, and I'd like to do an interview with Chuck. There's a lot of interesting things he knows. So the argument of Hernandez versus Commissioner, that ruling that Scientology auditing is a quid pro quo, that became a moot point after they got tax exemption. And anyway, there's some finer things that the IRS did where you can split that out. So I want to, first of all, say that the IRS versus Commissioner, you can argue it all you want all day long, but it's not going to get you anywhere. And I'm going to show you why in this video and how religion gets away with a lot of stuff in America. It's almost breathtaking what religion can get away with in America. And it goes to a fairly complex tax code of what's deductible, what's not, because not everything in religion, not everything you donate to religions, nonprofits, charities, is tax deductible. Some things are and some things aren't. And there's very specific rules about it. So I'm just going to give you a brief overview of what happens when you donate your dollar, your money to Scientology. And I have only $1. Hi, Patrick. Good to see you here. And what happens when you donate your dollar to Scientology, the Mormon Church, Temple, Synagogue, or anything else? What part of it's deductible? What part of it is not? And that's what the topic is today. We're going to start out. I want to show you how arcane this gets, and it's kind of interesting to go through. This is charitable contributions. In fact, I'm going to do it on a different, I'm just going to share it so I can go through it. Let me get to my PDF. Let me open the document. I thought I had it open. There's a wealth of information on, here it is. I think it's IRS publication 5226, I believe. Oh, yes, charitable contributions. We're going to go through this very quickly, but this is what you need to know if you're going to research Scientology and money. This is one of the many, many documents you need to know. And so we're just going to scroll through it, share screen. Yes, publication. Now, this document is of interest to us because I want it to be full screen. Brendana, how do I do that? Brendana's here with me, my assistant. I want this to be full screen. Oh, you know what you have to do? I forgot. You have to go. Okay, I haven't used StreamYard for a while. Charitable contributions. Oh, I know what I have to do. Okay. So thank you, Brendana. Now, the IRS, and this is what a lot of people like, stories about Scientology, celebrities, and things like that. I like to dig into the money, always have. So the IRS is a wealth of information for investigators, researchers, critics. Now, if you look at the contents over to the right-hand side, it's basically, this is a really well laid out document, I must say. And it says organizations that qualify to receive deductible contributions. So not every organization can receive deductible contributions. Now, this is the important part. Page 3, contributions you can deduct, contributions you can't deduct. That's the nexus. Contributions of property, when to deduct, limits on deductions, substantiation requirements. Now, they don't have transubstantiation requirements, which is a different thing unrelated to the IRS. Nevertheless, it's tax exempt. How to report, how to get tax help. So this, again, this is publication 526. As you can see, if you want to look it up, I'll put it on my blog. I will download it right under this podcast. So this goes through some very interesting items that, it's if you want to read through it and really get a grasp of it, this is one of the must-read documents. Now, there's people online. There's plenty of bloggers online who are who address churches and donations, and those blogs you can find. Just put blogs, church donations, church finances, and this goes through. And what's interesting, so there's questions and answers, what you can deduct, what you can't. To give some examples. But you can see this is a 26-page document, and out-of-pocket expenses and giving services, expenses. This was really interesting to me. We're going to get into this later. Expenses of whaling captains. So you can see that right there, expenses of whaling captains. Hi, Amy. Glad to see you. And I had to do a double take when I read why expenses of whaling captains are, and we'll explain that later. Why are expenses of whaling captains part of an IRS document on contributions to nonprofits, churches, charities? How do whaling captains play into that? That's just amazing. There's contributions you can't deduct, contributions to non-qualified organizations. So there's a lot of language, contributions from which you benefit, partial interest in property. So people try to donate a lot of things to churches, charities, nonprofits that value of time and services. For example, if you look at value of time and services there in the middle, you can't deduct the value of your time and services, including blood donations to the American Red Cross. So your blood is not tax deductible. So when you give a blood donation, that's very laudable and commendable behavior. But you can't deduct the value of your blood to the American Red Cross. So, or to blood banks, any blood bank. Now, this is why I love the details. I never even thought, I've donated blood many times, and it's never crossed my mind that I could not deduct the value of my blood on my income taxes. Nevertheless, it's apparently crossed the minds of many people that they can. And that's why this comes up as a subject, is there probably a lawsuit related to someone deducting, they value their blood at $10,000 a pint or something. And they wanted to get a $150,000 deduction for the 10 pints they donated through the year. You can sell your blood to blood banks, but you can't deduct it. Now, also, you cannot deduct the value of the income you lost while you work as an unpaid volunteer for a qualified organization. So let's say that I make $5 million per year. Now, whatever that breaks down to per hour, I don't know. But let's say I put in 40 hours of volunteer work and I want to deduct $250,000. I can't do that. Any volunteer work, unpaid volunteer. That sounds like what? What is an unpaid religious volunteer? Who can answer the question? Give me an example of an unpaid religious volunteer. Bueller? Certainly somebody knows. Somebody put in the comments our chief example of an unpaid religious volunteer. OSA, correct. That's close, Patrick, but who does OSA belong to? What non-existent entity are OSA members a part of? A Mormon bishop? Yes, correct. That's a great example, but for our theme, it would be the non-existent Sea Org. But you're correct, Mark. Exactly, Patrick, you win the prize, which is a non-existent metaphysical entity. So we award you 1 BT for the answer. Amy, I just want to give a shout out to Amy. If everyone who wants to show is live on the new F-Scientos site using any of these hashtags, oh yeah, so use those hashtags, F-Scientos, Scientology, or protest in your title. Thank you, Amy. I'm glad to share it. Yes, any Mormon bishops, anyone who works on a volunteer basis for any religion can, and this is an important point, Mark. Did you come from the LDS tradition, Mark? Just put yes, no. So anyone who volunteers, you cannot deduct the value of that time. And that's an interesting thing. And then there's over here in the lower right-hand corner, contributions subject to special rules. If you donate clothing or household items, a car, boat, plane, taxidermy property subject to debt, there's special rules apply. So this gets very, very like taxidermy, but you can actually donate taxidermy and you can get a partial contribution, as we'll show. And this is all leading to Scientology. Don't worry. I'm a professional. I will get you there why your body Thetans are tax deductible, but your e-meter's not. So clothing and household items, your clothing actually has to be worth more than you paid for, and you have to get an appraiser. So don't even try to deduct the value of clothing to, when you go to, now I go to Goodwill, Karen and I donate things, and we donate it at well under its worth because it's, you would have to get a professional appraisal. So if you keep it at a certain minimum, it doesn't flag anything. But if you try to claim, like if say you had a Gucci handbag and you donated it and wanted to claim $100,000, that would get you in problems with the IRS. Some things you donate, the IRS actually requires you to get an appraisal to take the deduction. You have to have a professional appraiser. So you can donate all kinds of things to Scientology and everyone else: furniture and furnishings, electronics, appliances, linens, other similar items. Now you can't. Household items don't include food, paintings. Paintings, antiques, and other objects of art fall into a different category. So these places, for example, Cars for Kids, they do commercials where they want you to donate your car. There's certain rules on the value you can deduct. Oh, I was a dedicated member of the LDS Church, but no longer practice or believe. Well, thank you, Mark. That's what I thought. And I can understand. I've known people who've left LDS. In fact, I know a lot of LDS. My brother, when he was alive, in order to marry a Mormon young lady, he had to get baptized. So he I went there when he got baptized, and I think he was 19 or 20. My late brother got married young, and it didn't last long. So yeah, he was sort of that. He did it just so he could marry a Mormon girl. And the result was a wonderful nephew of mine. I just donate to the veterans. They give you a bag in the mail and you can schedule a pickup and they give you a receipt. That's outstanding. And Karen and I have donated some things where we've had scheduled pickups. Like we had some inventory. We had a lot of jigsaw puzzles we donated. We were selling a lot during the dark times of the pandemic. And then we had some inventory left over. So we donated that to a nonprofit locally. But it's so weird. Like, look at the right-hand column again, taxidermy property. This struck me. This is the kind of stuff that usually arises out of lawsuits against the IRS and go to tax court. Tax court's different than regular courts. In the United States here, we have tax court, and that's over tax matters, and that's not handled by the civil court. However, if your taxes go wrong, it'll become a criminal matter. So taxidermy property, quote, if you donate taxidermy property, like a stuffed bighorn sheep, to a qualified organization, your deduction is limited to your basis in the property or its FMV, which is fair market value, whichever is less. This applies if you prepared, stuffed, or mounted the property or paid and incurred the cost. Why a charity, there's actually a big market for taxidermy. You go online and look, some things are expensive. And what about donations for travel for volunteers? That's a great question. As you'll read in this book, Denise, if you are the designated, let's say if you're a Jehovah's Witness and you're the designated member to go to their big boring meetings, you can deduct the cost of your travel to go as the designated representative. So if you went to one of these bogus interfaith congresses that paid Scientology cult apologist Massimo Introvigne of Cheshire hosts, and you're the designated volunteer for your cult, you can, or your new religious movement, it's a cult, same thing. Massimo, you're not tricking anybody. You are Anton Shoup. Yes, you can deduct that. But you cannot, if you were there, Denise, and if you traveled to a religious event, you can deduct it because you're the delegate. But you have to be appointed a delegate. Denise, this is an interesting question because if you travel just like as a pilgrim, let's say you go to the Vatican as a religious pilgrim, or the Ganges in India, or anywhere else. As a religious pilgrim, you don't get to deduct that because you're going on your own as a religious pilgrim to make a pilgrimage. However, if you're designated an official representative by your local temple, cult, synagogue, whatever, then you can deduct that. So that's how the IRS is really down to splitting hairs. That's why that's a great question. Now, if while you were on your religious pilgrimage to the holy city, let's say you were there now, and I wish I were there waiting to see who the new pope will be, that has to be exciting for Catholics. So if you traveled to hang around, be a religious tourist to see who's going to be the new pope, you couldn't deduct that because you're not officially, you're not there as a delegate. Also, if you travel to a religious conclave here, by the way, I posted something that conclave comes from the Latin word, and the Cardinals, the College of the Cardinals is about to meet in conclave. Conclave from the Latin means a locked room. Con with clave from Latin is key, a locked room. So that's what it means. I posted that on my OT8 is Great blog, where David Miscavige is an expert in locked religious terror rooms. So yes, you can also deduct mileage. So if you're a designated delegate and you drive here from Los Angeles to Cincinnati to whatever organization you're going to, say the Methodist Church, actually it'd be Baptist in Missouri, Southern Baptist Church, you can deduct the mileage. So yeah, that's why you need to read these policies. So deductibility is, let's jump back on. And okay, so taxidermy. So if you have that bobcat that grandpa gave you back in 1981 and you want to donate it, it has a market value. I was surprised. I did some research for this. Taxidermy, some of that stuff is really expensive. I'm talking up to $10,000 or more, 5 to 10,000. Property subject to a debt. Hey, I owe money on this car. Can I donate it? Or money on this house? There's rules on how you donate it that way, and the organization you donate it to has to take on the debt, or you have to clear it. And fractional interest intangible personal property, that's in that middle column there. If you own a part of something, there's rules on how you donate it. So there's all kinds of things that people want to donate, and they do donate, but like a certified historic structure, rehabilitation credit for that. And there's disallowances for deductions by conservation for S corporations. So this really is where Scientology's lawyers live, and Scientology itself lives, as I'll show later. And you can donate patents. And now this was interesting to me. You can donate patents and other intellectual property. Now, Mick Hucknall of Simply Red, fabulous singer, one of my favorite singers, Simply Red, Mick Hucknall, he wrote a song. Now, he's not an American citizen, but he wrote a song, beautiful song, and donated it to UNICEF. So all the royalties in the song UNICEF owns, and they get the royalties from that song. Had he been an American citizen, he could have deducted that. The value of a Mick Hucknall song would probably be, you could probably arguably put one of his songs in the millions of dollars, depending on the time horizon. So what's that, Brendana? Donating your copy of Battlefield Earth. Oh, Brendana has a question. Let me go back on. Brendana wants to donate her copy of Battlefield Earth to the church. Which church? The Church of Satan? Oh, I didn't know you were a member, Brendana. Oh, you're not, but okay. Well, if you wanted to donate a copy of Battlefield Earth, you could donate it at the fair market value, and they go for around $1 on eBay. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Battlefield Earth. You want to donate your here. If I wanted to donate theoretically my copy of Dianetics, wait, it's upside down. Wait, let me get it right. Okay. If I wanted to donate my copy of Dianetics, this is Bridge Publications Gold Leaf. I could only donate it for the fair market value, which would probably be $1. I mean, I could maybe argue $5, but that's pushing it. Oh yeah, Amy, I love Simply Red too, have since the 80s. I'm a big fan. I have their entire Mick's entire collection. So the IRS always looks at, what are you donating? Are you trying to pull a fast one? So if you donate $100,000 painting, you have to have a formal appraisal done, and then they'll accept it. If it's worth 100,000, you can deduct the 100,000 for a painting. Your copy of Dianetics, if you argue that it's a priceless work, as L. Ron Hubbard said, humbly tendered as a gift to mankind. Can you believe what an ass he was? When Hubbard first came out, the original dedication said, Hubbard wrote, humbly tendered to mankind as a gift. He humbly tendered it to you as a gift. So is it priceless? Could you take $1 million deduction on this? No, you would get in trouble with the IRS because these things are essentially paperweights. I mean, except if you're, Dianetics or Hubbard. Tony Ortega just did an interesting piece where Jeff Levin did an update on that on his blog, and you should go. Great work on Tony's blog by Jeff Levin. So let's go back to this because I think this is kind of fun. So we know that we can donate taxidermy, future interest in tangible personal property. And that word I want you to, that's going to become an important word, tangible personal property, things that actually exist. You can donate intellectual property. So you could donate all kinds of things, tangible personal property. You can donate future interest, and you set that aside. So anyway, those are the rules. And so they even have like an example here. I'm sorry, not here, the next corner over. You donate a used car in poor condition to a local high school for use by students studying car repair. A used car guide shows the dealer retail value is $1,600. However, the poor condition private party $750. So if you donate a car and you say it's $1,600, but it's in poor shape and the dealer guide shows $750, you can only take the $750. Here's a good thing. Anyway, you purchase, it says example, you purchase, and this is something that always is interesting in terms of Scientology. If you read over, you purchase 500 copies of religious book, I'm on the right-hand side, you purchase 500 copies of religious book for $1,000. Well, that wouldn't be Scientology, because if you purchase 500 copies of one of their books, that'd be like probably 5,000. Well, actually 500 copies. Yeah, you'd be looking at $50,000 if you were to buy Scientology books, because they don't give them away. They usually charge $100 a book. That's a ballpark figure. It could be more or less, but they don't give them away. The person who sells them to you says the retail value of these books is $3,000. So you can only deduct what you paid for them. Giving property that has decreased in value. Now that goes to my example with your copy of Dianetics. If you paid $49.95 for your copy of Dianetics, please show your support. Just hit that like button, hit it like a BT, and like, subscribe, and report. By the way, just so you know, I've been away on an extended special assignment, a very interesting special extended assignment, and stay tuned. Hi. He was saying hi. Yeah. Hi, adorable anarchy. Glad to see you back. Yeah, I've been taking a break. I've been working a lot. It's been working. But okay, so giving property that has decreased in value. That's my example of this. Okay, let's say that I was when I was in the church, I bought a gift edition for $1,000. Now, it's decreased in value clearly because the market value, and this is what's so damned interesting, is the IRS is real interested in fair market value, FMV. And they even have publication 551, basis of assets. And so if your property is decreased in value, as has anything Scientology related, decreases in value. Scientology is work. You know, when you buy a new car and you drive it off the lot and it loses 20%. Well, thank you, Style Audit. That's a very kind thing of you to say. Thank you. Yeah, like I said, I've been so busy. Sometimes you have to. I have a priority of this case I'm working on, and it's so interesting. I can't talk about it, but it's taken a lot of time, and it's going down a rabbit hole. And I got to tell you, folks, the skills I've gained analyzing Scientology, that's the big leagues of cult studies. When you go into a smaller cult, it's easy once you've taken apart Scientology. Smaller cults are easy because you know how the pros play the game in Scientology, to borrow from Steely Dan. So when you go to a smaller cult, it's really easy. This is, but it gets complex. Just the people, the pattern's the same. It's like all cults operate. Is any LRH historical stuff worth anything? Brendana, what do you think? Wait, Ron? My works are inherently intrinsically valuable and they should be in all the museums of the world. If you're a Scientologist, they're priceless religious artifacts. I was at the LRH Lifetime Museum, I don't know, back 2000. I used to go in there before I was posting as jswift at zenu.net. And you see all of Ron's stuff. He never threw away anything, including the affirmations. And we have Jerry Armstrong to thank for putting those out to the public. There is LRH historical stuff that on eBay you can buy, signed books mostly. It's worth whatever somebody will pay for it. And it's not like a letter from Pope Francis, who just passed. Something from Pope Francis signed would be worth a lot of money, or Pope John Paul II, a signature by Paul McCartney. So when you look at the value of things like the Superman #1 comic, you could donate that. You could actually donate that. The fact, while I have you there, hold, because I want to see what the last Superman #1. I was just had a client over today picking up a painting, and we were talking about value of Superman #1. Oh my gosh, that can't be right. Comic. Okay, we're gonna go to this website. Okay, I gotta share this site. Wow, you gotta see this. I had no idea. We're gonna go on to another screen because Superman #1. Since we're wandering around talking before we get to BTs. Okay, so share. Okay, now according to this website, Superman #1 is valued at $1.1 million. Holy Xenu Batman. $1.1 million. And then it says #2 is at $62,000. Look at that drop off. The #1 is everything. Superman #1, the image says the complete story here. The complete story of the daring exploits of the one and only Superman. $1.1 million. Yeah, compare that to something from L. Ron Hubbard. So if you had a signature, I don't know. Let's just check that because we can. And let's just check that because we can. Hold, please. eBay. Okay, signed notes. Get rid of that. Since we're there, signed L. Ron Hubbard Collectibles. I haven't looked at this for a while. Okay, so, okay. Now to answer your question, we're going to go back. So we're going to stop sharing this screen. Remove. Okay. Now I wanted to share, since you raised the question, you asked, okay, we're going to share a screen. Stop screen. Share screen. Okay, so I went to eBay and we're going to make it full page. Okay, I asked for L. Ron Hubbard Collectibles. Excuse me. L. Ron Hubbard Collectibles. I'm going to enlarge the screen. Okay, so it's a new listing. You know, so an L. Ron Hubbard signed letter on personal letterhead, $600. 600. And love Ron. and it says, "Dear Peggy," I'm going to read it to you. Dear Peggy, thank you for your great validation. Actually, I need to get you guys so you can see it. Oh, I need to get this up. Okay, I've got to share this screen. Let me stop this screen and share the other one. I want to see what Ron wrote. Okay, so this is a $600 letter. It's not Superman #1, which is going for 1.1 billion. L. Ron Hubbard writes, "Dear Peggy, thank you for your great validation. I won't be able to make a personal appearance as I'm very busy working on still more research. There's a lot of work yet. What are you working on? Love, Ron." This is dated 23 October 1978, where Ron wrote to Peggy. So it's $600. That's the asking price. And it's on his personal letterhead. I have a couple L. Ron Hubbard stuff, and this is out of Roswell, Georgia. Oh, too bad it's not out of Roswell, New Mexico. So let's stop that screen, and we're going to share another screen. Let's go back to, while we're at it, L. Ron Hubbard Collectibles share. Okay, so within L. Ron Hubbard Collectibles, you can sort eBay by highest first. So let's just look at the highest first. Okay, so L. Ron Hubbard, type signed, autograph, Scientology, Dianetics, JSA, LOA. I don't know. Oh, it's authenticated. So $25,000. Good luck getting that. 25,000 is the asking, and it's a signed letter from Ron. There's a signed picture of Ron. Looks like when he was in South Africa, judging from the appearance there. You got to really be showing some love to Ron to get 9,500. I know I wouldn't go for it. Battlefield Earth, the dynamic music soundtrack signed by Hubbard in 1984, $1,043. Still not biting. I'd rather get a Superman. I'd rather get something else. Autograph signed $1,000. Type note $800. Type letter signed $800. $600. We saw $499. And I've talked to people who said they could sign Hubbard's signature, so we don't even know. Oh, look at this. A John Travolta autograph card from Battlefield Earth for $350. Wow. John Travolta, Battlefield Earth. $350. I might go there for a novelty just to have Travolta's signature on Battlefield Earth. That's not a bad price for Travolta. I'd be more interested in having Travolta's signature than Ron's. And an Upper Deck 200 rare, $349. That Upper Deck card at $350 would not be bad at all. I think that would be a great card to have. It's worth that's a good market price. Travolta won't be with us forever. That's something that I might have just for the novelty of owning a Travolta signature. So we've gone signature faked at the time. Yeah, there's a lot of fake. Yeah. Hubbard signatures, because he used, I know he used, did he use AutoPen? Chuck Beatty, do you know if Ron used AutoPen or if there were fake signatures? I know David Miscavige could, sign his signature. He used to brag about that. So that's kind of the market for Hubbard memorabilia. That 25,000, that's just in my opinion, is just a smoking crack price. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get 25,000 for that. That's a smoking crack price. That's what we call it here in our business. Smoking crack. What's 1.1 million at markup credits? I don't know what the exchange rate is today. But money being fungible, waxy Markabian money is not fungible. It's not exchangeable for U.S. dollars, unless you go to the exchange station on Mars. I don't know. That's a good question. This is why I like my audience. I hadn't thought of the exchange rates lately. So someone should open a Scientology atrocity true crime memorial museum. Amy, I agree that will happen, but we need to go back to the IRS. Um, wait a minute. I know we're going to just finish that and then move on to the central part of what we're doing. I want to remove that from the screen. I just want to finish up this IRS thing we were on because it's really worth going through the kind of we were talking about how okay, so property that's decreased in value, that's how we got started on donating Scientology stuff. God, if that guy that's selling the LRH letter for 25,000, if he paid 50,000 for it and he's trying to sell it for 25, he's taking a hit. I wonder what he paid for it originally. Back in the day in the 80s and 90s, L. Ron Hubbard collectible stuff had a much, much higher value, and it's just depreciated along with the cult. Food inventory. So anyway, there's penalties if you overclaim, bargain sales. And so you can see how the IRS has looked at it down to even you cannot deduct the value of your blood that you donate to a charity. So no bodily fluids are deductible, are tax deductible. Sorry, but you just cannot deduct bodily fluids. And then this is the worksheet. So that's so Form 526 is very interesting. And like I said, I'll post the PDF on my blog. Now there's deductions of 250 or more, deductions of less than 250. There are rules on that. Deductions over 500, but not over 5,000. Deductions over 5,000. And so they're very specific. So there's deductions under 250, 250 to 500, 500 to 5,000, and over 5,000. There's different rules on that. And the IRS has all these publications, all of these publications on what you can and can't donate. So we're going to remove that. And then we're going to go into the, wait, where am I? Oh, I thought I was on stage. Oh, sorry. Okay. So the letter writing from Hubbard almost immediately became the job of CMO cadets, Commodore's Messenger Organization cadets. They practice his signature until perfect. Wow, that's amazing. So who would authenticate an LRH signature? Who would authenticate it? You would have to have a world expert. Pat Broker. I don't know. That's like what, 3 churros and a few space cruiser mark cap credits. Maybe 4 of you haggle with the galactic banking officer. I agree. That's exchange rate. Yeah. So CMO cadets wrote, I know L. Ron Hubbard had, what is it? SO order, one where you can write him at any time. And all communications will be answered. So now we're going to go to the exciting stuff. Oh, wait, let's go this. A Voice Down Under. I like that name. Question. Sorry, totally unrelated. Do you have any information on Kozrecki? I would say Alexander Barnes Ross. I kind of do the Money Project. My blog kind of does America. I'm not that familiar with Kozrecki. So Alexander Barnes Ross, he's Scientology Business. This is his blog. I would say, are they worth pursuing? Oh, definitely. That's what Alexander's doing. Everyone's welcome. I've launched a campaign to get them investigated. We'll be canvassing across Australia. Good for you. I'm glad you're doing that. Reach out to Alexander. Kozrecki is a different video, but basically there used to be Perth Scientology audit. Okay, thank you. Kozrecki is a different story. Long story short, there's a video still online where Kozrecki, it's the Church of Scientology Religious Education. Church of Scientology Religious Education. I don't remember, but anyway, they actually filed in a jurisdiction of Australia, and this covers all the Commonwealth countries. Kozrecki covers Scientology in the Commonwealth countries. And so they filed in this province. It was tax favorable when they used an address of a guy who didn't even know they were using his address, and that was exposed on TV. Yes, I would recommend Alex, because he, like, his specialty is Commonwealth, St. Hill, London, and I don't understand that law, and he does. So you need local, we need specialty. The SO1 line where you can write to Hubbard was run by CMO cadets in late 70s. Hubbard never touched a letter to or from a fan. Well, yeah, because it could have BTs on it, because they do travel on papers, you know. But Hubbard did handle all of this. Okay, well, I would recommend working with Alex. He's an excellent researcher. He does very good work. And so now we're going to go. Okay, now stop screen. I don't know what screen I'm stopping, but I've stopped it. And now I want to share a screen. Now I couldn't upload. I have a big entire screen. We're going to share this. I wanted to upload it. One of the limitations of StreamYard I don't like is it doesn't take big PowerPoint files. And so, okay, why your body thetans are tax deductible, but your e-meter is not. So the prelude being open, we're going to get into it. As we saw in our previous, going through Form 526, expenses of whaling captains. Now, this is why America can be so strange and hard to understand to people who don't live in America. Expenses of whaling captains are deductible, but this only applies to, there's actually a law called, it's an Eskimo thing, and that's even Congress uses the wrong word in the IRS. It should be Aleuts, the tribe Aleuts. Because whaling is part of the Aleut culture, religion, history, if you're a whaling captain working in Alaska for the Aleuts and you have to be certified by the tribe or whatever tribe you're working for, you can deduct whaling expenses as a captain, because they do take, I'm opposed to hunting whales, but up in Alaska, the Aleuts, where they take only what they want to eat, they don't do commercial whaling like the Russians or the Japanese, which is deplorable. You're allowed to deduct your costs as a whaling captain only in Alaska, only when you're certified by a tribe, only when it's for ceremonial tribal use. So the IRS recognizes that as part of their culture and tradition and sacred rites. So I thought that was interesting, to be specific. This thing about taxidermy property, I looked at this mountain lion, that price the asking price on that was $5,200. And I abhor taxidermy, but I understand that other people like it. It depends how you grew up, where you live. So I don't have anything on it. It's just nothing I would own. And I say that as I'm not a vegetarian by any means, but I don't like it. But why this came into law, I want to find the tax case where somebody donated a taxidermy. They donated a mountain lion or whatever, and there was a court case. So that's covered in America under donations. You can deduct that at a fair market value, which is strange, but that's how specific the IRS gets. And I'm going somewhere with this, so just follow. Now, there's qualified conservation contributions of farmers and ranchers. So if you're the Marlboro man, or you're a farmer or rancher, you can make contributions that are tax deductible for conservation of your land. And so you can see how broad the IRS covers. If you're, let's say, a rancher, let's say you're Kevin Costner. Well, the character he plays, Dutton. Let's say you're Mr. Dutton in Wyoming and you want to donate to conserve some of your land or set it aside for conservation, you can deduct those costs, which I think is a terrific thing to do. I think it's a terrific incentive. Smoking's not good, though. Sorry, I'm drinking from a water bottle. Is flexing. Now, some time ago, I tried to find the date. I'm not sure, but some time ago, I want to introduce you to a concept in America. And excuse me, this is called intangible spiritual benefits. This was what the IRS did to really like rule on contributions. This is what the IRS had to create. They had to bow to metaphysics, belief systems, and religion by saying that there are intangible spiritual benefits. These are non-physical. They're not intellectual property, although in Scientology they are based upon intellectual property. An intangible spiritual benefit, you can spend all the money you want and deduct for it. So here is Benny Hinn at one of his rallies when he was big time. And this was before his affair with Paula White, fellow evangelist Paula White. She's on President Trump's prayer team. So this is Benny slaying people in the spirit. I grew up in this tradition in Pentecostalism where the healer touches you and you're slain in the Holy Spirit and you go down on the ground. I worked as a catcher. What you don't realize in the logistics, and I'm just going to, I shared this before, but this is kind of a fun story. What many people don't realize is in a miracle faith healing rally, which I worked at as a young man, when people go down, they get touched on the head and they're slain in the spirit, you have to have a catcher so they don't get injured. Because if you just fell down, you could get hurt. You could get a concussion. So you had young men like me. We never used young ladies back then. I don't know why. Maybe they use them now. But so like, let's say you're working with Kenneth Copeland or Benny Hinn or whatever. I worked at some of these rallies. And one of them was at Melody Land. But we had a school where we actually had to learn how to catch. So if you have a big, beefy brother, say someone like Justin Craig, I'm just using him as an example. That's L. Ron Hubbard 2.0. What, Brendana? Oh, yeah, the guy that's in prison. Yeah, he's the reincarnation of Ron. I wonder what a Justin Craig signed letter would be worth. So we got trained like under the armpits, and you had to lay them down gently. If it was a big guy, you needed like 3 brothers to catch him, because some of these guys who go up pushing 300, man, sometimes you need 4, because sometimes they drop like a sack of potatoes. So you got to be ready for anything. And then when a sister goes down, you have to go up, up onto the shoulders, up under the armpits to the shoulders, because you don't want to touch any boobage. God forbid there should be lust. So when you catch a woman, it's usually up under the armpits, up under the shoulders. Don't go anywhere near the breasts. That would be a sin. They don't want you to cop a feel. If you copped a feel when you were catching a sister who was slain in the spirit, that would be a sin, copping a feel. So I never did that. I was always a good Bible believing Christian. But if Satan got to another brother, that could happen. Just saying. So that's an intangible spiritual benefit. So if what, Brendana? Yeah, when people are slain in the spirit, they go into a swoon. Some of them claim to be transported to heaven and to have great spiritual experiences where they see Jesus, or they see visions of the rapture. But this is like a healing thing where slain in the spirit is kind of an interesting thing. It's really intense to be around. It's quite, when you're actually in the belief system like I was, is very intense, because you think the power of God is falling on the room. They would say the power of God is falling on this auditorium, falling on this church. And you'd think you could feel it. It's a group think. group vibe thing. And there's always music. It's very hypnotic. I got to tell you, it's really intense. I'm glad I got to experience it. Um, Now I'm a little bit too old, like I wouldn't work as a catcher. So that's an intangible spiritual benefit. So if you donated $5,000 to Benny Hinn, to his ministry, and you were slain in the spirit, that's intangible. You claim to be cured of whatever you have. You can deduct that. You can absolutely deduct that. And if you take communion and the Holy Roman Catholic Church and you donate $10,000 that day, or $1, whatever you have, each according to their means. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get communist. That's an intangible spiritual benefit. The doctrine of transubstantiation in the Catholic Church states that the wine and the bread become the literal blood and body of Jesus Christ. Now, that's an intangible spiritual benefit, receiving communion from your priest. It's a very spiritual experience, but it's an intangible. So that money you deduct for that, the money you donate for that is deductible for an intangible spiritual benefit. If you get baptized, here we're showing water baptism, full immersion. I'm very Baptist. I think that some people don't think you should be fully immersed, and some people don't think infants can be baptized. You have to be above the age of knowledge, around 13, 14, to be baptized. That's a tradition, and that's an argument in Christendom. Infants can't be baptized. You need to be the age where you know good from evil. And that's why the Christians say that the souls of babies who die go to heaven, babies and children go to heaven right away because they're without sin. They don't have the knowledge of good and evil. You can see in the background they're playing music while you're getting baptized. And those baptismal tanks are usually heated and they're very nice. I was baptized at Melody Land Christian Center, April 1, 1973. And it was a very powerful experience. The Reverend Noel Weiss, a converted Jew, did it. Hal Lindsey was speaking that night on the late great planet Earth. It was quite intense. So these are intangible spiritual benefits. You are going under the water as the old man, and you arise as the new person in Christ. Intangible. So now there's a gray area in my research. In my researches. Ron always used the word research. Anything he did was researches. He used it plural. In my researches. So anyway, in my researches, I wanted to know about snake handling, tax deductible or not. Because you have the cost of feeding and housing the snakes. And if you get bit and you need medical care, assuming you don't die, is that tax deductible? In other words, IRS, if I'm a snake handling preacher, Holy Ghost falls on this place, I'm going to take hold of the serpent. Because there's a verse that says you can take up serpents and scorpions, and if they bite you, you won't get hurt. It's based on a verse in the Bible. So is snake handling, is the care and feeding of the snakes tax deductible? The IRS fails to address this. The IRS further fails to address whether if you get snake bit, this is an intangible spiritual benefit, handling the snake. Arguably, it follows just like speaking in tongues, getting communion. And here, I'm not, hear me clearly. I'm not diminishing anyone's spiritual experiences. Okay. I'm just saying for this, what I'm doing, I want to make this point very clear. Very, very clear. I'm not I'm not invalidating anyone's religious experience. What they experience is what they experience. Okay. What I'm saying, I'm only talking about how the IRS sees it. The IRS doesn't care if you handle snakes, if you're Catholic, Buddhist, Jewish, Muslim, Baha'i, Rosicrucian, Church of Satan. You go down the list, they don't care. The IRS is agnostic insofar as what you believe. They could care less. That's how I'm approaching this right now. So I'm not denigrating belief. I'm having some fun, perhaps, with snake handlers and some other people. Um, uh, anyway, they don't. So I'm just saying this: the IRS is agnostic. They don't care what you believe. Could care less. They just care whether it's intangible or tangible, and they put qualifications on it. So snake handling, they don't care. They don't. The IRS doesn't differentiate beliefs. They don't weigh beliefs and say one's better than the other. They can't do it by law. They can just say whether it's intangible or tangible, or if it's partially deductible, which some things are only partially deductible, as we'll see. So if you're snake handling, I was just curious, and there's no rules about snake handling and tax deductibility. So I would think that if you were handling snakes, which is technically illegal, but they don't enforce it really. I mean, they got better things to do. It's technically illegal. I think if it were an illegal activity like peyote smoking in some places, unless you're Native American, which they smoke peyote. I think illegal activities like snake handling, peyote, unless you're a Native American tribe that does that, in which case you're allowed to. That came about after a lot of lawsuits. But if you're doing something illegal, it's not tax deductible, which is why I think all of Scientology should not be tax deductible. So, which gets us into a book Scientology releases every year. And this is Information on Taxes and Your Donations. There you can see the cross on the flag building, for which Luis Garcia and his wife donated, I forget, like $80,000, because they said, Luis, if you donate this money, you'll be the one who put the cross on the top. You'll be the one who paid for it. You can have the honor forever of having paid to put the cross on the top. But of course, the Regis did that to, I don't know, 10 or 12 different couples. So Scientology puts out this book, and I have a copy, and so basically they explain what I went through on Forum 526. They just put it to Scientologists. So essentially, because, and this is my answer to Hernandez versus Commissioner. The OT levels are all of Scientology's bridge is an intangible spiritual benefit. Okay. And so they show the training side and the processing side. Processing is where you're audited. Training is where you're training to be an auditor to deliver the levels on the processing side. So these are intangible spiritual benefits, because when you're getting an engram audited on the levels below clear, that's an intangible spiritual benefit. You're saying that an engram has been erased. And when you go clear and onto the OT levels and you begin dealing with body Thetans, that's an intangible spiritual benefit. I mean, you can't, it has no, it's a metaphysical entity, a hypothetical, Hubbard created metaphysical entity. And so that's an intangible spiritual benefit. And that's why I went over it with you. Like snake handling, blowing a BT out, or it's solo on the solo levels where you audit yourself up there on section 2 of OT7. That's all tax deductible. Now you can see onto the right where my mouse is hovering. Let me get that down so you can see it below my logo. It says, I'm going to take this out a little bit bigger. So what the church tells their parishioners is, up here where my mouse is, all contributions for auditing an auditor training to advance up to classification and gradation chart qualify as tax deductible. So these are all intangible spiritual benefits. It's not a quid pro quo. You can argue all day that it is, but like I said, Hernandez versus Commissioner is moot after they got their tax exemption. I think it's a quid pro quo. It's clearly a quid pro quo, because Scientology has a fixed donation schedule. And, and then Scientology argues that other religions like the Catholics have pew rentals and they do other things with fixed donation schedules. So they're no different. And in America, you can pay to rent a pew, especially up front. The Kennedy family rents a pew, and Teddy Kennedy, you'd want to be seen in it. So you can do pew rentals, temple, you pay all kinds of things. Chuck Beatty, tax deductible, intangible quackery. I like that phrase. Chuck is like, I've always considered Chuck's writing to be astonishing. He's kind of like William Burroughs. He's got this way with words he doesn't understand. Tax deductible, intangible quackery. Xena's body Thetans for finding and exercising freeing. Yes, those BTs will be new taxpayers. Now you're free. That is so funny. L. Ron Hubbard hated paying income tax. He hated it. He said, the income tax is suppressive. Yeah, you know what? The IRS, maybe that's what they're thinking is, if Scientologists free millions and billions of BTs, they'll become new taxpayers. Maybe that's the angle. Maybe Ron was secretly working with the IRS. That would be a good conspiracy theory, to create new taxpayers and new voters for a particular political party and leader. I think you're onto something, Chuck. Maybe there was a secret Scientology IRS agreement to get the BTs and maybe implant them to become taxpayers when they get a new body. Because once a BT leaves, you tell it to go pick up its own body. Okay, so the whole bridge is deductible. So when you go in, now this picture. This guy, look at him. This is from a Scientology magazine. Look how miserable this guy looks. The pre-clear, the one being audited. So you have the auditor with his back to us, and the pre-clear. This guy looks so miserable. Look at him, like he's pissed. Like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? Like Scientology usually posts happy pictures. Happy pictures. This guy's definitely pissed off about something. Maybe he's having to admit that he masturbated. Something. I don't know. Or he's having to give up some crime over withhold past life. Maybe he's blown up planets. Maybe he destroyed planets in past lives. That's a sec check question. Have you ever destroyed a planet? That's an intangible spiritual benefit, because if you admitted that you destroyed a planet and then you got the charge off on having destroyed a planet and its population, have you ever destroyed civilizations? That's intangible spiritual benefit when you admitted that you've destroyed civilizations and planets on the whole track. And then you're forgiven because Scientology auditor can forgive you by the power vested in him or her by L. Ron Hubbard. And which is like mind-blowing. I forgive you for destroying planets and civilizations on the whole track in the past. That too is an intangible spiritual benefit. Amazing. But yeah, this Mr. Happy here is not Mr. Happy. He has a logo on his shirt. I notice as an investigator. Let's see if we can read his logo. Let's see if we can read his logo to see. This is the kind of stuff. Okay, now look at that. Okay, now so you see the e-meter, the guy's dialing it in. It's set. The Ultramark 8 ready to go to probe the reactive mind, or if he's clear to probe BTs. And it says interactive. Now, question, Chuck Beatty, or anyone who's auditing Patrick, why does he have a green dot on his shirt? Is that a code and flag? Is that something? By the way, auditing tables, we're going to go over. They always have Kleenex. And they always have hand cream because you need hand cream to optimize conductivity between your hand and the electrode or can, which originally Hubbard created the cans as tomato soup cans, and they were attached by alligator clips to the meter, a wire to an alligator clip. So Hubbard recommended Campbell's tomato soup cans. He felt that they worked the best. That's actually in Hubbard Holy Scripture to use the Campbell tomato soup can. Okay, Jeffrey, his a oh, you mean this is a vendor lulled into holding the cans late at night. This is totally bogus, fake setup, photo op. You know what? If he's a vendor, that's a good catch, Chuck. So they just dragged in this guy. Hey, some rando vendor, and maybe fixing the plumbing. Hey, come in here. Come in here. Come in here. And but let's look at this picture now. So you can see the Kleenex. You always have to have, because you could start crying. You could get a nosebleed. What if you got a Chuck? What happens if you get a nosebleed during session? Do they stop it? Because you're not supposed to stop session. What if you're working a virulent BT cluster and you get a nosebleed because you're re-experiencing getting punched in the face 25 million years ago? Chuck, what happens, Patrick, any Scientologists, what happens if you get a nosebleed during session? Wow. Okay, so Chuck says, yes, stop it and continue. So you would stop it when you had the nosebleed. I just like to know these things because that could happen. But normally people cry and they get misemotional. That's a word. It's not a person. Misemotional is Brendana's. That's when she gets pissed. The auditor, of course, is wearing glasses, and Dr. Hubbard said that that Dianetics will eliminate your need for eyeglasses, so that falsifies the premise of Dianetics. But let's just tear apart this picture because it's interesting. Now you can see the auditor also has pens. See on the back of the e-meter shield? This is the e-meter. That other part with the pens in it's called the shield. And that's put there so that the pre-clear cannot see what the meter is doing. The auditor can also put papers for the pre-clear to read on the shield. But you can see there's a handy pen holder for the auditor. There's a red, green, and blue pen, and there's paper. Now, this paper is 8.5 by 11. So, Chuck, I think it is a fake setup because you're supposed to use legal size, the 8.5 by 11.5 paper for sessions. Chuck, TR4, it's legit to stop something really odd happening. Okay. You don't stop the session. You just take a slight pause mid-session. If they have to leave to go to the restroom, yes, then it's a stop. Oh, okay. So you can have potty breaks. We used to call them session breaks. Okay. It is non-standard paper. So Chuck Beatty's right. This is a fake setup because we caught them using non-standard paper. Oh, the fakery. And so this guy's a vendor and he's got a green. This is really interesting. This is like a find during a live stream. Yeah, that's why the guy's mad. He really doesn't want to be there. You can see the picture of Ron to the side of his head. And but you notice that the room is empty otherwise. It's empty. So it does pose. Now there's a little Chuck, you can see that little glass tray with objects in it. Now what would that be, Chuck? And are those candies or are they just what's in the Chuck, what's in that glass tray? What would they put there? Oh, also, auditor is not using his thumb correctly. Ooh, let's see what Chuck's got. We're going to go through pictures, Chuck, because I got a whole bunch. That is a non-standard tone arm control, a fake auditor. Oh, so we have a fake auditor, a vendor, and a posed photo, non-standard paper. They don't have the hand cream showing either. Oh, so those are treats or demo for when you have to clear a word. So those are treats. I wonder if they're laced with anything. I wonder if they laced them with something psychoactive. Yeah, Patrick, I thought it was mass for the student study. I know they have paper clips and little objects to because L. Ron Hubbard said that you need to have objects to give a pre-clear a student mass and significance on an object. But there is insufficient items in DISH for a full demo of word clearing. Well, I tend to think, I think they normally do have things for a demo, but I think in this case, we've went black. I think in this case, because this is a posed photo, it's candy. Since it's posed, they wouldn't like. But you always have to be careful of a Scientologist at Flag luring you in with candy. It has malicious overtones. Come in and have some candy during your session. Oh man, I would think they laced it with LSD. So it's a demo kit, but this time it looks like candy. So we'll split the difference. Since this is a post shot with non-standard paper, I think it is candy. Okay, so but the point is to get back on course, because I just go all over, I'm eclectic. So this is an intangible spiritual benefit, getting auditing, whatever he's auditing. Now, this is a pose thing. Chuck has spotted all the outpoints, as they call them in Scientology. Also, the guy's jacket's pretty nice, I have to say. And usually Sea Org, doesn't have that nice of clothing. That's a nice jacket, or at least it looks like it. Okay, so that's intangible spiritual benefit. You get the point. And I liked our little discussion. Oh, Chuck is so spot on. That's an org exec who isn't meter trained. Yeah, they grabbed someone from Qual or wherever, and they hey, get in this. We need some pictures. So they grabbed Ted from Qual, the qualifications division. And they said, sit here and pretend like you know what the hell you're doing with the meter. And then they grabbed the vendor and said, hey, sit here. And it's like, WTF, what the fuck am I doing? Okay, I'll do it. I don't like it. And Chuck was an excellent word clearer. People learn from Chuck. They did. Also, whoever took the photo didn't pick up on the WOG's angriness. Yeah, that's what stood out to me when I looked at this thing. It's like they were rushing it out. So they grabbed Ted from Qual, told him to act like an auditor, and he doesn't know how to operate a meter. It's like, okay, I'll go take the picture. And this vendor from Interactive who was fixing the HVAC has to sit there, and this guy looks like they put makeup on him, like maybe some pancake, like maybe the guy's not that smooth. I bet they did. I bet they had the makeup people nearby, Chuck. And oh, wait a minute, I jumped. I don't know what's wrong with this. Anyway, this picture's messed up. Anyway, you know what happened? It jumped off of the PowerPoint, as can happen. Okay, so yeah, I think they put makeup on the guy, Pancake, just to make him smooth out. Because look how even his skin complexion is. So they hit him with makeup a little bit. Oh, my thing's jumping around. Anyway, that was a good analysis. I think, Chuck, sometime I'd like to have you on and we can go through org photos. The fake PC definitely looks too normal, WOG aggressive. Yep, definitely WOG aggressiveness. The WOG, when he is in session against his will be aggressive. Airbrush the photo. Yes, Amy, they did. Makeup bright lights for the photo. It is. This whole thing is staged. It's BS. It's nonsense. It's just, but Scientology is always good at effectively outflowing false data. Okay, so as I said earlier, the bridge to total freedom. Now, what happens when you get, then our next question is, okay, what happens? You work your way up the bridge and you're audited by an auditor. That's all tax deductible. Suddenly you're on solo knots. That's OT7, where you're going to solo knots. You're going to hold both cans in one hand. Do I have a can? I have a can nearby. I don't have a set down here. Okay, so on solo, you hold both cans. Can we use a substitute? Sure. Okay, just pretend this is an e-meter can. You hold both hands in one can, so your other hand's free to write and work the meter. That's called solo auditing, where you're on your own. Previously, you were helped by an auditor, but you learn in section 1 of OT7 and you have to be invited onto solo. You can't just pay money and go on. And you've got to sign that contract where if you talk about the OT levels, you pay 100,000. This is a flashlight. They're really great flashlights. Okay, Xenu, pull it over. What are you doing in that DC-8 space plane full of frozen bodies? Got some ID. That's what the intergalactic police would do if they caught Xenu in a space plane packed full of frozen bodies. They're frozen in a glycol alcohol preparation, which preparation, according to Hubbard, is guaranteed to pick up a Thetan. They were frozen in a glycol alcohol preparation, which is guaranteed to pick up a Thetan. Okay, pull it over, Xenu. Anyway, enough of this. So when you get onto Sol, you have to buy a meter. Now, I got you covered here. We're going to share a screen, which is really interesting. Stop screen. I wrote an article on my blog, and I want to show it to you. Share screen, entire screen. I have to take a drink. Hold on. This is from 2022, but it's still accurate. Okay, so in 2022, the price for a new Scientology e-meter with cans, carrying case, accessory, and troubleshooting kit, because yes, you do have to troubleshoot the meter, was $5,850. And per L. Ron Hubbard policy, you have to have 2 meters in case one breaks. Because I'm telling you, you don't want to be in the middle of handling a virulent OT cluster and have your meter break and not have a backup. You're gonna want that extra backup meter. So when you get onto the level, congratulations, you can now solo audit, but you got to buy 2 meters at $5,850. So let me just get my calculating device out here. $5,850 times 2. No, Brandana, I'm not OT. I can't do math in my head. $11,700 in addition to the cost of the level. You're going to have to pay $11,700 for 2 meters. Now, this is where things shift. These are tangible. These are tangible devices. Unlike intangible spiritual benefits of telepathically contacting your body Thetans and causing them to blow, to depart, to be exorcised, these are not tax deductible. Your meters are not tax deductible because, like books, they are tangible assets. They're tangible. You don't get to deduct them. And that's an important thing. They're not deductible. They're not deductible. So this is the Hubbard Professional, not amateur. They don't sell Hubbard Amateur or anything. Hubbard Professional Mark 8 e-meter. It says the future has arrived, even though this is old. So this was like patented in 2010. It's all outdated. So you pay $5,850 times 2, and you get a selection of cans and a carrying case, a specially designed case. But you have to add, so the cost is, the meter's $5,000. The troubleshooter, which it says troubleshooter, everything at your fingertips to troubleshoot your meter. Not sure what's in that. And then the solo, so that's $500 for the troubleshooting. And then the case is $350. So that's where you get your $5,850. So $11,700. The latest meter, of course, has a clock chip. So when you don't really buy a meter, you lease it nowadays, and you pay for it. But the contract, the meter purchase contract, which should load, I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that if it's not loading. It's good for a year. So you log on with your IES member number, and then you log on with that number, and then in a year the clock chip turns off, the meter will not work. And you have to log back in, and if you're a member in good standing of the IES, they reset the clock chip for 1 year. So it's only good for a year. My first e-meter, Chuck Beatty says, cost me $250. My first Mark 6 cost me $650. My first Quantum, $2,800. It's going up and up just for the Ouija board e-meter. Yes, it is. The troubleshooter is the list for PC repair. It's just paperwork lists for sessions. Oh, you know what, Chuck? I thought it was an actual troubleshooter for the electrical parts of it. I'm going to find out what's in that kit. Because the repair list for sessions, oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, when there's lists you can go through when you're on solo, the last question is like, never had an incident too? That's a secret. Okay, so basically, that's not tax deductible. So this is why the title, your intangible spiritual benefits of auditing your BTs, which were traceable to Xenu, and traceable to Xenu, that's deductible, that portion, but the IRS splits it. So auditing BTs, the IRS says intangible spiritual benefit deductible, e-meter, physical, tangible object, not deductible. The same with your LRH books and library, not deductible. Sorry. Now, here's an interesting thing what the IRS does as well. Let's say we're going to have a dinner and it's $100 for a ticket to the church of whatever. $100 for dinner. The ticket's $100, but the actual meal is $45. That's the cost for the caterer. That means the fair market value is $45 for the meal. You can only deduct $65. So the IRS does stuff. It bifurcates or splits. BT's fully tax deductible, meter not deductible. Neither is the troubleshooting kit or the case. So that's how they split it out. Now, going back to PowerPoint, and I have some. So I want to just get back to sharing screen, stop screen. I want to go back to my PowerPoint to end this thing out. Where I always go long. I always go long because there's a lot to talk about. Let's just finish this thing up. 5,800, $1 million, 50 million, 200 billion. Okay, so going back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so you can see why the bridge to total freedom, engrams, BTs, implants, markups, all tax deductible. Meter, no. And also, if you pay for training, here's an interesting thing. They have what are called FSMs. Oh, I'm sorry, not FSMs. They have field auditors. And the field auditors, they audit out of their home. They audit out of their home. And they're paid when they pay to get auditor training to audit out of their homes, they can deduct that as a business expense because most of the field auditors have their own business, sole proprietorship, whatever. So they can deduct as a business expense the cost of their training, but they can't deduct it as a religious expense. It's not a religious donation. It's a job training thing. And Scientology covers this in its book. So I wanted to, they have a donations to social betterment organizations. These are Scientology front groups. Basically, you can donate to Narconon and it's deductible. However, if you take the actual Narconon treatment course, that's not deductible. So Applied Scholastics, you can donate to, but if you buy books or distribute books, no, that's not deductible. Tuition payments to an Applied Scholastics school or to a Narconon Center for Drug Rehab have a tangible exchange rate and are not deductible. And you can see that. So basically, I'll read that again. Tuition payments to an Applied Scholastics school or payments to a Narconon Center for Drug Rehab have a tangible exchange and are not deductible charitable contributions. So it's the same thing with their donations United for Human Rights. They also have Utes for Human Rights. Utes or youths. It's the same thing in Scientology. If you donate just to donate money to the organization, it's deductible. But if they give you tangible goods like books, courses, things like that, not deductible. Foundation for a Drug-Free World, deductible. Citizens for Commission for Human Rights, which is not. It's actually so. This is the psychotic anti-psychiatry group that Tom Cruise is so in love with. It says it fights the drugging of children in particular. Those are deductible. Now, there's a group, this didn't get on my scan. Let me see if I can take it down. Yeah, there's a thing called iHelp. It's little known. You can see down in the corner of this left hand where my mouse is. The Hubbard Ecclesiastical League of Pastors, iHelp. How many of you actually knew there was a Hubbard Ecclesiastical League of iPastors? These are basically independent field ministers. They're called, technically, they're members of the International Hubbard Ecclesiastical League of Pastors. Now, they can deduct their membership dues as business expenses and their training as business expenses, but they're not technically tax donations for religious services because there's a tangible benefit. But they tell you to check with your tax advisor. So a field minister would pay income taxes on the money he or she earned, but they would also deduct the cost of training. They could deduct the cost of their meters because those are tools used in business. And so again, the IRS is agnostic. I'm just looking at this as the IRS as agnostic, okay? Payments to Hubbard Colleges of Administration. You can donate to the L. Ron Hubbard College. Not that you would, but you could. But however, if you attended there as a student, your tuition is not tax deductible because the education, this is secular because the Hubbard College of Administration bills itself as a business school, which is ridiculously absurd. It's based on the org chart and management by statistics. Anyway, you can just give the place money, deductible, but if you pay as a student, not deductible. In fact, they have a student loan scam. I mean, they put young people in ridiculous debt. It's sad. The last front group is World Institute of Scientology Enterprises, or WISE. These are all Scientology business people. They generally join WISE. They generally give 10% of their income. These are generalizations. And these WISE is the group that targets chiropractors, veterinarians, holistic practitioners, people with cash flow that they can turn into Scientologists. So your membership dues are not tax deductible, but they can be tax deductible as a business related expense. So you, again, consult your tax advisors. High seas banditry. In the US, if a person earns more than $600 a year, the employer is required to issue a W-2 employment tax form making the recipient an employee. Anything of value, room, board counts towards. Well, you know what? This is an interesting question because you could be a contractor. There's different statuses. I'm not an expert on it, but I know you have to issue them a 1099. But I appreciate the comment. I'm not really. I will get into that another time. But like the room board counts towards the tax thing. So I was looking as I was doing research on this. I found a really magnificent statue, and so basically the bottom line is money paid to a church for tangible items are not tax deductible. I found this marvelous statue of Christ that I might even own. But this is about $5,000. This is a really nice piece. That's not tax deductible, though. So I just wanted to show that there's some sort of objects, beautiful objects, art that you would own that could appreciate in value that are not deductible. But again, anything intangible, considered intangible, is not. That's kind of it in a nutshell. So the IRS, so to summarize, as I've said before, the IRS splits it. BTs, engrams, implants, all that other stuff Hubbard describes in his tech that's intangible, deductible, the meter, tuition, membership and WISE, things like that are not tax deductible. And that's it. And I hope that, at least Hernandez versus Commissioner should be a decision that's stuck. I do think Scientology is a quid pro quo where you pay something to get something, but the corrupt IRS deduction killed that off. And let's read some comments. Jeffrey, someday somebody needs to do a show and tell of the CS53 repair list. It would take an hour to explain all the gibberish. You know what, Chuck? I think I will do a CS53. I happen to be married to my lovely wife. Karen was a class 12K supervisor. The CS53, she could explain it to me. That CS53, I know what you're talking about. I read it years ago. It might be on my blog, the repair list. I'm not sure. But that's a good idea, Chuck. You're a big concept guy. Clearwater holds the record for human history of total volume of souls exercised. Oh man, maybe wrong, but I think Solo Knots does cluster BT freeing. Chuck raises an amusingly whimsical point, but it's true. I would say because BTs are in the billions, 76 planets inhabited by, what did Hubbard say? It was like 100 billion people each. It was a high number. And so there was like, I have the number calculated of total BTs because I multiplied the average number times the 76 planets 75 million years ago. So I agree with Chuck. I think total volume of souls exercised would go to Clearwater. That would be their highest ever stat. Now, why doesn't David Miscavige tell Clearwater City Council, look, we're exercising more little micro demons called BTs than anywhere else on the planet? And that's why we should have L. Ron Hubbard Hall. That's the highest ever claim, Chuck. That's a good thing. That's stats. iHelp has never taken off. Well, yeah, neither has Criminon and other things, but they still have it because there's a few field auditors still out there. Flag doesn't like them. RTC doesn't like them. I know pastors can benefit from a portion of their home, clothing, books, etc. Yeah, a lot of times the church will own the home in which the pastor lives, and it's a parsonage, and they live there free as part of their employment contract with the church. So yes, pastors can get a home, and pastors can deduct a lot of their things that are related to like their concordances. But nowadays everything's online. I noticed no one on the government forums we would get as CERG members from the IRS mentioned religious workers. Well, technically, the CERG doesn't exist, as I've made clear. That's something we continue to talk about. Because the CERG has no legal form of existence per David Miscavige's own attorney, it has no address, no phone book, no bank account, no stationery, no members. David, in Rathbun versus Miscavige, David Miscavige's attorney, Mr. Jefferson, made it quite clear that the CERG has no form of existence. It's just a pledge you make. So therefore, you're classed as an unpaid religious volunteer belonging to a non-existent group that's based on a pledge. So of course you're not going to get minimum wage, and you go into the CERG saying you're not doing it for any financial interest, hope of pension, or anything. And so you're not really a religious worker as you are. And that's another show, Chuck, religious workers versus members of the CERG, because they're two different things. Yeah, one of the Clearwater. Yeah, they would believe it, Amy. Does the IRS know about Hubbard's inadvisable college, or is that college known existence? Yeah, they do. Yeah, it's in fact, we have one right down. It's just down the road from where Karen and I live here, and it's a big empty building. And there's a lot of colleges that, anyway. So that's it. I hope that answered the question. Why your BTs are tax deductible, but your meter's not, and everything else. I have a bunch of, like, here, let me just grab this at random. This is stuff people mail me. State of Man Congress. State of Man Congress. And this is hours, endless hours of L. Ron Hubbard droning on and on and on and on and on. And it's full of CDs. They could put this all on a. This is what the point has been made forever ad infinitum by critics. I'm sorry if we had a drop off. It was a Markab incursion. Okay, you could put all of L. Ron Hubbard's tech on this, but they like to have big boxes to give you mass and significance. You could put all of LRH, on a stick. You could put it all online, but the basic, you could put Hubbard here. This is a 32 gig. So you could put all of Hubbard here, but they like to have this big splashy showing stuff. And there's a man stretching out to infinity. It's kind of a ripoff of the Vitruvian Man. It's a ripoff. They want you to maybe subconsciously think Vitruvian Man. Or it's Jack LaLanne doing jumping jacks. And then within the box, it's like a nested Chinese box. You get a smaller box. So you get the big box and the smaller box. And this is not tax deductible because, and then within the smaller box, you get DVDs. Who has a DVD player? I mean, my car has one, so I could listen to Ron on the road, I suppose. And then you get, it says, they're selling, they have blowout cards where they're selling your next lecture. And there's a picture of Ron speaking. Hello, I'm giving the lecture on the state of man. The state of man is not good without Scientology. And I wish Chuck Beatty would leave me the fuck alone. That's what L. Ron Hubbard said. I wish that Chuck Beatty would leave me the fuck alone. Now, they sell these headphones. This is like the clear sound headphones in a package. So you can take Ron instead of, look at this. So you get all this stuff. Again, not tax. I'm just showing it to you and ending the show to show what kind of literature they put in their lectures. But wait, there's more. Love the clamshell containers. Loads of jokes on those clams. Yeah. And then you get a state of man. Here's a big foam piece. That's the padding. Just a big foam piece. But there's a book that accompanies the lecture series. And it has it's a dictionary. It's a dictionary. So if you're listening to the State of Man Congress and you never go past a word you don't understand in Scientology. That's rule number one. Never go past a word you don't understand. You have to word clear. So this has notes. Hubbard has an essay called Honest People Have Rights Too. Honest people have rights too, which would mean that L. Ron Hubbard and David Miscavige have no rights. And let's just go bibliomancy. That's when you pick a verse from the Bible at random. Let's do Hubbardomancy. And we'll have, let's just get caved in. Caved in is a Scientology word. Collapsed mentally and or physically to the extent that the individual cannot function causatively. That would be like L. Ron Hubbard after he had his second stroke. He was caved in. The individual is quite effect. Cave in is a U.S. Western term which symbolized mental or physical collapse, like being at the bottom of a mine shaft or Oh, when the supports collapsed. So when the mine caved in, Hubbard borrowed that term from a mine caving in to say that's what happens to you when you don't get your tax deductible auditing. So anyway, hope that answered your questions. It'll be fun. Chuck, I'm glad you showed up. Another show and tell. The subject involves 1991 tech volumes, especially subject, and that's, well, email me, Chuck. We can do it. I've always said that these clamshell packages, if you are engaged in money laundering, these could put in a lot of money, because 10,000 is a yellow band. It's about like that. So if you're running a Dianetics mission in Colombia or anywhere else, you could just throw out the inside and put a lot of money into that. That's a different story, and I've shared that before. So thank you for watching. Thank you for watching. Always enjoyed having you. Remember always you want to wear rich masculine corduroy. We've got to talk about that for a while, and we're going to go out and appreciate having you here. Thank you for watching, and I have we're just going to end on some nice music that I like playing. See you next time. The Scientology Money Project, Jeffrey Augustine, your host. And we'll see you. No, it's not right.